Welcome to my official standings predictions for the 2025 NBA season. Disclaimer, I know I will not predict many of these correctly as the NBA has a huge amount of parity and injuries are unpredictable. Just because I have a team higher than one team does not mean I believe they are the better team. I just believe the regular season favors that team more. My power rankings will be who I believe is better, but we will get to those closer to the season. Let's start in the Eastern Conference at the 15 seed. The Wizards are a popular pick here, but I'm going with the Nets only because I know they will become big-time sellers early in the season, making them lose more games than expected now. With little surprise at 14, I have the Wizards. They're going to be atrocious, as we all know. I predict the Chicago Bulls to finish 13th in the Eastern Conference this year, as they are going to be focused on a youth movement this year, taking away minutes from all the veteran players. You could say Lonzo Ball and Zach LaVine could lead them to wins, but if either of them plays well, they will be traded as soon as a partner is found, leaving me to believe they will not win many games. Next up is the Atlanta Hawks, and as crazy as it may seem, they will be the 12th seed in the East. Trae Young is an elite point guard, but there is not much around him to convince me that this team is a play-in team nor a competitive team in the East. Trae Young is typically injury prone as well, and I cannot imagine this team winning many games without him, like they've been able to do the past two seasons. Surprisingly, I have the Pistons at 11. I believe the Pistons are still awful, but they brought in so many veterans this offseason who are looking to prove that they are elite NBA players. So, as easy as it is to say they are going to be a bottom feeder again, I do have to recognize that Cade finally has some decent players around him, and they will probably win more games, especially since management wants them to win more games, which is kind of weird given the fact that this is probably the best draft class to tank in outside of 2023, and they're not going to be tanking. The first Eastern Conference play-in team is the Charlotte Hornets as the 10th seed. LaMelo Ball is reportedly going to be wearing ankle braces this season, which has been the main injury he has dealt with in his career, and when he plays, the Hornets look competent. So I have an expectation that LaMelo Ball plays, and we already know Miles Bridges is going to give you 20 a night, but Brandon Miller will be heading into year two, and if he plays up to his expectation, the Hornets will be a decent team. One of the more interesting young teams, the Toronto Raptors, come to us at 9. The Raptors have one of the best young cores with Scotty Barnes, Emmanuel Quickley, and RJ Barrett, and they will be an entertaining team to watch this year. Knowing the grit and tenacity of those three players, they will beat just about every team on their level, as well as pulling off a few upsets, leading to them to be the 9 seed in the East. I really hate putting the Heat as the 8 seed, but every year they begin the season struggling, and they didn't do anything to make themselves better in the offseason, so there isn't much to be optimistic about besides 4 players, with 3 of them being injury prone, making a regular season infinitely more difficult to be successful during. Rounding out the play-in, I have the Indiana Pacers. I know, they were just in the Eastern Conference Finals and spent the entire regular season as the best offense in the NBA. Unfortunately, the defense has not gotten better for this team, and last year they just snuck up on teams as teams underestimated them. The Pacers will not have that luxury this year, and although they made a statement last season, I just think the 6 teams ahead of them are going to be better in the regular season. I fought many ridiculous narratives my brain was pushing because I really wanted to put the Magic as a top 3 seed in the East. Luckily, I didn't do that, but there is a chance they surprise us again, as they are a grit and grind team and have one of the best young stars in the league. I just don't buy into them being able to shoot well enough to be better than the best teams in the league, because they will be a streaky team, and streaky teams normally level out as 500 teams. So as great as they were last year, I don't believe they will take another step forward unless they add a sharpshooter by the trade deadline. Well, I know the hate is going to be high after saying the Knicks will be the 5 seed here, but I do want to make it known. The Knicks are my favorite in the East right now. I just don't know if they will succeed in the regular season because they do not have a true center, and as good of a perimeter defensive team they will be, lacking a true interior presence will lead to a huge deficiency on the defensive end. If they add someone before the season starts to fill that void, I would slide them up to the 3 seed, but they probably won't, and that is why I believe they will finish as the 5 seed. A dangerous 5 seed. I mean, the Mavericks were just a 5 seed and made the finals, so I'm not counting them out, and I'm not discrediting how good the Knicks will be. Another team with a clear deficiency is the Milwaukee Bucks, who I have as the 4 seed. I am a big-time believer in the Bucks, but they do still need to address the defense on the perimeter. However, Giannis Antetokounmpo is undeniable when healthy, and he proved that last season as the Bucks had an abysmal season, yet somehow managed the 3 seed. I am going to respect them as they work to address their issues and have utter dominance on offense when things get going, but I also do know injuries are big with them. They are an older team, making me keep them at the 4 seed. I by no means believe the Cavs are better than the Knicks or Bucks, but in the regular season, they're a team better suited for regular season success, in large part because they can weather the storm with injuries. We saw the Cavs last season play many games without their core players due to injury, yet they almost were the 2 seed. If they have a season filled with as many injuries as last year, then I will gladly be wrong with this prediction, as it seemed like every game they were missing one of Garland, Mitchell, Mobley, or Allen. They can weather injury storms, and they have depth, so being a team built for the regular season, I believe the Cavs will finish as the 3 seed in the East. My 2 seed is the Philadelphia 76ers, as they are a team with a tremendous amount of talent given their new big three, but also they are a team that is deep and is probably the deepest team in the East fully healthy. Maxey, Lowry, Eric Gordon, Reggie Jackson, Kelly Oubre, Paul George, Caleb Martin, Yabusele, Joel Embiid, Andre Drummond, and the young, almost league-ready players makes up a very deep Philly team that can hurt you in so many ways. So to believe the 76ers aren't going to be successful in the regular season is to believe that all hell will break loose chemistry-wise as well as injury-wise. They very well could be the 1 seed this year, and I would not be surprised at all. Now, I don't believe they're the second best team in the East in terms of playoffs, but we will discuss that in another video. I wanted to put the 76ers at 1 over the Celtics, but realistically, the Celtics are easily better and the best team in the East, and will be throughout the regular season, and most likely the playoffs as well. Heading out west to the conference we care more about, we start with the Trailblazers at 15, by far the worst team in the West. At 14, we have a little bit of a shocking pick here, the Utah Jazz. I love what their Jazz are cooking in Utah, but they are not good enough to compete with many of the elite teams out west. However, I could also see them in the play-in tournament, but it really depends on the health of not only them, but the other teams in the West. At 13, I have Victor Wembanyama and the San Antonio Spurs. This team is becoming a little overrated in the media's eye, but I am here for it as a CP3 fan. Unfortunately, this team is still way too young to be taken seriously, and with how competitive the West is, many teams are going to try and exploit this team's youth, leading them to lose more games than expected. Is it crazy that I am debating putting the Clippers lower than 12? Because if so, I am crazy, because putting the Clippers at 12 was one of the easier decisions for me in this Western Conference. The Clippers falling down to 12 is based on the fact Kawhi is unreliable, and we don't know what to expect from James Harden. It is insane to place them here, but there's a real chance they end up here or even lower. The last team missing the play-in and playoffs completely is the Golden State Warriors. I will be rooting for the Warriors, and I like the pieces they added this offseason, but to take them serious in the West is something I cannot do, as they don't have an interior presence, and every team in the West has some sort of big besides them. It will be difficult for this team to win games, so putting them at 11 is not hard for me at all. The first Western Conference play-in team I have is the Houston Rockets. The Rockets didn't do much this offseason, but with all the steps their young players took last season, combined with the fact we know experience is the greatest teacher, I believe the Rockets will take another step forward this year and find themselves in the play-in tournament. The Los Angeles Lakers are going to have a brutal start to the season, as they will be running it back with the same team they had last year. However, I expect them to make a trade for Brogdon and Valanciunas by the deadline, making them a team that is better than a 9 seed, but factoring in the bad start and the adjustment time needed, they will end up here at 9. At 8, I have the New Orleans Pelicans. I like this team on paper a lot. However, they probably have the most drama circulating them compared to any other team in the league because of Brandon Ingram. This will lead to some early season issues depending on how it is handled, and DeJounte Murray needs to build chemistry with the Pelicans team, which will lead to the Pelicans having a slow start to the season. But once they get into a groove, they're going to be a dangerous team in the West that finishes as the 8th seed. The Sacramento Kings are a hard team to place because if you look at their offense, they're going to be electric, but their already poor defense just got worse. Due to that, I expect them to have a relatively similar regular season as last year, but they will figure out how to win more games, ultimately making them the 7th seed. My first playoff lock will be the Memphis Grizzlies. Their season was cursed with injuries in 2024, but the Memphis Grizzlies are going to be looking for revenge and will start the season scorching hot. However, the question marks at the center position and health will factor in as the season progresses, leading to a late season slide, leading me to predict them as the 6th seed. As a Suns fan, I am confident, but I am no longer delusional. If this was me last season making this video, I would probably have put the Suns as a top 3 team in the West. I no longer have faith in my team, but we did get significantly better top to bottom. Our offense will be the best in the league as we have a true point guard now, but defensively, with a below average center and a smaller team on the perimeter, our defense is going to be brutally bad. We will blow a lot of teams out due to our unstoppable offense, but we are injury prone and defensively challenged, which will inevitably lead us to the 5 seed and probably an early playoff exit. Falling down to 4, I have the Denver Nuggets. The Nuggets simply do not have enough depth nor an elite starting 5 anymore, as they do not have a true starting 2 guard at this moment in time. The defense is going to be much worse, and if it weren't for them having the best player in the NBA, I would not have them in the top 6. Jokic is good enough to get them in the playoffs as the 4 seed, but the Denver Nuggets are in fact in trouble. Normally, I wouldn't characterize the Mavericks as a top 3 seeded level team, but they have so much depth 1 through 5 now that they do not need to rely on Luka to carry them to the playoffs anymore. Because of this, resting Luka will be easier than ever, and staying atop the West is going to be more attainable for this team as they have more weapons as well as an elite defense. My only concern for Dallas is the potential Klay Thompson drama, but for now, they should coast to a top 3 seed. At 2, I have the Oklahoma City Thunder. The Thunder are pretty easily my favorites in the West, as they are the most balanced and complete team in the conference. However, I believe the Timberwolves are going to start better, as the Thunder are going to have to develop chemistry and effective rotations with their new additions. Also worth noting, the Timberwolves were number 1 until Cat got hurt last season, and I believe they are destined to be number 1 with the defense they have and offensive firepower they possess. In case you want to see what the entire Eastern Conference and Western Conference look like, the Eastern Conference is on the screen, feel free to pause it, and now the Western Conference is on the screen, feel free to pause that as well. If you want to explore more content, my weekly recap is on the screen in the middle, and my position player rankings playlist is also on the screen. I will be ranking the top 25 players in the NBA this Friday, so make sure you like and subscribe so you don't miss that. Y'all stay safe. Have a good one. Bye.